teachers. Welcome to Empowering Writers. I'm Diane Lazar, and today I want to take you through your Hub guide so that you know the types of assets that you have. So to begin with, the first thing we need to do is to sign in. Please be sure to sign in with the appropriate email, basically the email that you use to purchase your product. I'm going to sign in here with my Google email. That's my work email. And so when I sign in, I want to make sure that I'm allowing Atlas Learning, which is our platform, to talk to my Google Classroom. So it's going to ask you for that kind of access. And all that is it is asking you to make the connection so that when we get to the point where we can assign some work out to students, then you have the ability to do that directly from our Hub. So as you can see, I'm here. And when it opens up, here's my name, this is my account. When it opens up, you can see that there's nothing there. But up in the top corner, you see there's a little tab called Purchased. When I click on that Purchased tab, my books will open up. Now, I have a lot of books because I work with a lot of different grade levels and teachers, but you will only have the books that you purchased or that were purchased for you through your school. So I'm going to scroll down, and when I come here, I'm going to start by opening up this grade 4 guide. It's an informational guide. So let's take a look at how the Hub is organized and what you can expect when you head into your book. Now, I've opened up an informational opinion guide for grade 4, but I'll be honest with you, all of the guides are organized in a similar fashion, whether it be a grade 2 guide or a narrative guide. You're going to find a lot of the similar elements. So the first thing to pay attention to is down here, that running to the left-hand side is the curriculum overview. These are all the sections of the guide that you have. And as soon as you open up your book, the first thing you land on is the planning guide. Now, I'm going to come back to the planning guide in a moment because I want to go in and out of a couple of the lessons before we come back and take a look at how to begin to implement. So we're going to start here in section number 1 at the literacy launch. Every grade level 2 through 8 has a literacy launch. The literacy launch is your first unit. And when you open it up, the first thing you see is a planning coach's video. It's about a 5-minute video just to get you comfortable and familiar with the content in this particular section of your guide. And then as you scroll through, here are a couple of other assets. You've got a table of contents and then a key. And then here is the graphic organizer's lesson that I'm going to get into. And this is where your lesson plans scroll out. So I'm just going to scroll to the bottom of the literacy launch so that you can see all of the lessons roll out from here. So let's start by looking at lesson number 1, introducing graphic organizers. And I just want to show you a little bit about the lesson design so that you know what to expect when you open up a lesson plan. First of all, we always start with an objective. Every lesson at Empowering Writers is objective driven. So you're always going to see the objective stated right up front. Then we always put our teacher background information right up front as well. Now, this piece of teacher background information is a video. Sometimes it'll be in a PDF format. So depending on the type of background you might need to teach this particular lesson, we've embedded it right there. Our teacher background videos are perfect for when you're ready to teach this lesson so that you can just be review the information, or some of you may not have taken one of our professional development workshop series. So this might be helpful for you to understand how our thinking goes with this particular concept, skill, or lesson. And then once we go through the objective, now we scroll down to the procedure. The procedure is basically a step-by-step procedure telling you exactly what to do in order to teach this lesson effectively. And as you can see in the procedure, sometimes there are some digital components that we want you to use directly in your classroom for instructional purposes. If there is a digital component, we put it right underneath the step where we tell you to use it. So we're going to start by looking at the skill power. And in this particular lesson, you're going to be introducing students to the narrative writing diamond. So the skill power is going to help you to do that. So the presentation comes in two formats. The skill power will have the presentation without audio, and there's a presentation with teacher narration. So let's just talk a little bit about the difference between these two. First of all, the slideshow itself, the actual content on the slides, is identical in both presentations. What's different is in the presentation without audio, you as the teacher are going to supply the background information for your students. So you're going to roll through those slides, you're going to click through them. We've provided the images, we've provided some of the content, but you will need to rely on your own teacher background knowledge in order to teach that particular lesson effectively with this presentation. Now, for those of you who are not comfortable with the content or are still sort of learning it and might just want that support, we've provided you with some teacher narration on that very same slideshow. And the teacher narration is really there to provide you with that sense of support. So we are giving the instruction to your students. Our master trainers have recorded the audio for all of these slideshows. So let me just show you a little bit about this presentation.
Hi, students. Today, I want to introduce you to the narrative writing diamond and show you how this graphic organizer represents the shape and the structure of narrative writing. And I also want to show you how we use the narrative writing diamond to plan our stories in conjunction with the summarizing framework.
The little chime shows you it's time to go to the next slide.
First, let's start with looking at the narrative writing diamond. And let me point out a couple of things to you before we move on.
So as you can see, we're going to provide the instruction directly for your students. You're going to move through the slides, and you can still move through them at your pace. You can stop the slide at any point and add your own talking points. But we've provided the audio for you as that teacher support. So your choice, make sure you preview the information in the skill powers so that you can make an informed decision whether or not to use the teacher narration or use the one without the narration. And then in this lesson, it also calls for an animated video. Now, here's what I want to make sure that you understand. You don't have to use both to introduce students to the diamond. You can use either the skill power or the animated video. We've just provided you with the information in several different formats. Once again, preview the skill power, preview the animated video so that you know which one you want to use when it comes time to do this lesson. Now, one other thing to pay attention to in the videos is make sure you know the length of the video. This video is 17 minutes in length, and it does go through the narrative writing diamond, and it has students doing a couple of things with that diamond. And so what you want to do is make sure you preview this so that you know which one you want to use. It's also helpful to know how long these videos are so that when you're planning for instruction, you know the kind of time you're going to need. And then as we continue through the lesson, here are your student reference pages that you can download and print, and then some guiding questions for you as the teacher. So in the lesson plan, we provide you with all of the pieces that you need to teach this lesson effectively. And then after you introduce students to the diamond, now you're going to introduce them to the pillar. Once again, there's a skill power to introduce them to the pillar, both with and without teacher narration. And then as we scroll down to the bottom, we get to the bottom of the lesson. Now, I will be honest with you, the secret to the hub is to scroll to the bottom, because so often there are some assets down on the bottom that might be there for review or reinforcement or for additional practice. Let me show you what I mean by that by going into lesson number 2, recognizing genre. As I open up lesson number 2, predictably, you can see that the same kind of information shows up. We see the teacher background information, the objective is stated right up front, and then your procedure. Now, in this particular lesson, there is not a skill power, and there's no video for you to use directly to your students. The only video here is your teacher background information that's going to inform your own instruction. And then we begin to scroll down, and here's, as the steps roll out, it's time to open up the PDF file for your students. And here's where you're going to download and print that. So if you want your students to have a copy of this right in front of them, download it and print it. Your download button shows up on the top right corner. You can also see that as you scroll through, there are two PDFs eventually in this lesson plan. And so one might be one that you will use directly in your classroom, and then another might be one that you want to use for homework or for independent practice. Let me also show you the other way that we provide student pages. We provide them as a digital page as well. So let's take a look at the digital page. Now, it's the same information that you saw on the previous page. However, now what you can do is you can assign this resource. So depending on your learning management system, your LMS, you can directly assign this resource. Definitely can assign it right out to your Google Classroom. So if I had a Google Classroom course, I could actually assign it right here. Now, when I signed in with my email, the one that I used to purchase this resource, I made that connection through our Atlas system to my learning management system. And if I had a Google Classroom, then I could assign that directly out because that connection will have been made. So here is where you can assign this resource out. And what will happen is you'll have some tools that students will be able to use. I'm just going to use the pen tool for right now so that you can see that students can circle, they can highlight, they can write text in. And when you take a look at this, what happens is you can have your students use those tools. Once you assign that out, those tools will help them to complete the work. Depending on the type of work that's there, they have a variety of tools to do that. And then they submit that, and you'll be able to look at that right within your Google Classroom. So the digital student pages are available for assigning, and the PDF, this is a static PDF. You can also assign this if you prefer to assign it just as a static PDF onto your learning management system. Let's continue to scroll down to the bottom of this lesson because as you see, here's that second page, and that might be available for you if you want additional practice with this skill. But here's where we get to towards the bottom, and you can see there's a lesson for review and reinforcement. We've provided some interactive student lessons, and these are a series of slides. I'm going to download them as a set of Google slides. And once I hit the copy of those Google slides, then I basically own this slideshow. I've copied it out now, and I can assign this out to my students. And when we open up this particular interactive set of slides, the first slide that you see is a welcome slide for teachers. These are the teacher directions. And it says to delete the slide before sending out to your students. So we give you the direction. But I also want you to know that you can manipulate these slides in any way. I've just made a copy. It's mine. I can change out the Bitmoji. I can adjust the text. I can remove any of the graphics that I want and make it my own, customize it for my learners. And then in this slideshow, you see that there are some directions for students. Here's a little review. The purpose of the lesson was to recognize genre. And here's where we come to the interactive portion. Students are directed to sort the books and the features from the bin on the right side to the correct bookshelf. So here's our opinion pillar. So we're going to slide that over to the opinion piece. We're going to put the narrative diamond here. We're going to put the informational pillar in this bookcase. And then we come to a piece called Pizza is the Best. Well, that's an opinion piece. And as you can see, I can begin to sort and categorize depending on the genre of the piece. And that's what we're asking students to do. It's a great little check-in, meaning did students actually understand this concept and can they do that independently? So you can use this, you can share it out to your learning management system and provide students with these slideshows. They're called the interactive slides or interactive activities. So that's typically, you're going to find any of the interactive student lessons towards the bottom because basically we're telling you that these can be used for review and reinforcement. You can assign them out to your whole class or to individual students. And then continuing to move down, there's also an extension part of this lesson where we're introducing students to argument writing. And again, that's optional for you to use when you feel that your students need that. So we're back here to the literacy launch where all of our lesson plans are rolling out. And I want to go to one more lesson, the strategic reading lesson, because there's another set of student assets that I want you to see. Once again, predictable pattern in our lesson design. We start with some teacher background information. There's our objective, some important vocabulary, and then we get to our procedures. And in this particular lesson plan, you're going to be annotating and analyzing a piece of writing, and we've provided you with a virtual field trip. A virtual field trip is basically a short video to introduce students to the topic or the theme. We provide some background information for them, and we also introduce some important vocabulary that they might find in that article. Notice that there are 2 virtual field trips here because there are also 2 articles, bears and scarecrows. Now, there's no need to use both of these. You can choose one or the other depending on your particular classroom. And if you want to, you can always come back another day and use the second piece when you feel like your students might need that kind of review or additional practice. So I'm going to open up our virtual field trip. This one is in coordination with the article called Bears, and I just want to show you a short clip.
Bears. Common traits. Bears are part of the Ursidae family because of their non-retractable claws, squared snout, rounded ears. Relatives of bears are dogs, raccoons, pandas.
So you can see we introduce students to the topic, give them some of that background knowledge that they may need. And then once you're done with the field trip, and the field trip, this one is just about 2.5 minutes long. Once again, it's important for to know the length of the video for planning purposes. And then once you're done with the virtual field trip in your classroom, now you're going to move to the text. And so here is the static PDF where you can download and print that or assign it out if you prefer to assign that out digitally. But as you can see, we've provided the students with some of this information. Here is the common traits. The word Ursidae came up, the non-retractable clause. So this is going to engage students in that topic and provide them with the background knowledge necessary to be able to effectively read, annotate, and analyze that particular article. Here is the set of digital student pages. And again, I can assign this out to my students if I prefer, if I want them to do this work digitally, or if I want them to follow along digitally, I can do it that way. Otherwise, I would print it and have that prepared in my classroom. The other thing that we've also provided in all of our texts when we've given you the procedure to annotate and analyze the text, we've also provided you with some narrated text. And here's what we've done now. We've taken that very same Bears article and we've broken it down paragraph by paragraph, and we read it to your students. One of the ways that might be really helpful to use this is certain students need to preview some of the lesson plan materials before actually doing it in the classroom. So this might be a great way to have students preview this particular article, gain some of that background knowledge, and be ready to do the work with you in the classroom. Let me just play a very quick clip of this.
Bears. It's hard to believe that these large, often ferocious relatives of the dog, raccoon, and panda are the inspiration for millions of cuddly, soft, stuffed toys. There are many kinds of bears living in numerous places the world over. Their behavior and shared traits fascinate their human neighbors all around the globe.
So as you can see,
Kinds of bears.
we provide the audio recording Your students can preview this text, or you can use it for differentiation purposes within your classroom. You can assign that out to individual students or to your whole class. All right. And then as we continue to move through this lesson, you can see here's the Scarecrows article, digital student pages, and narrated texts as well. Now this lesson continues. So after you annotate and analyze, and here are the directions for annotating and analyzing each piece of that writing. Here's your little chart. And then as you continue to scroll through, the next part of this lesson explains that it's time to summarize the text. And here's the information for summarizing. So as you can see, we've provided you with some of the digital assets that you're going to need to effectively teach the literacy launch right within the lesson plans. I'm going to open up one more lesson plan because there's another teacher asset that I think is important for you to know about. This is what we call our modeled lessons. Once again, here's our objective, and then your model lesson will provide a peek into the classroom. And we have curated many, many videos where our master trainers have gone into classrooms, and we've actually done these lessons with students in classrooms. We've videotaped them, and then we edit those videos and coach you through that lesson. What I love about it is that I can watch that video today and teach that lesson very confidently tomorrow. So the model lessons are available for you as well. All right, so we've been right inside of our literacy launch. And remember, when you first opened your guide, you really landed on the planning guide. So I'm going to go back there now, and we're just going to have a quick view of what you're going to do to get ready to implement. So the first thing you see is a planning guide cover. That's all it is. It's a static PDF, but I have a binder, and I print this PDF out, and I put it right inside of my binder in the sleeve so that I know the content in that binder. And this is going to help me to get prepared for teaching the lessons. Here's an overview of the planning guide. That's basically the video of what I'm sharing with you here today. And then as you scroll down, we come to our professional development video list. And this is a static PDF. Once again, download and print this. But it's a map to show you exactly where all of your teacher background videos are located. So in section number 1, we went into introducing graphic organizers. And here's a teacher background video in that particular lesson. In the recognizing genre piece and genre and author's purpose, that section number 1, we saw that. Here is some more teacher background, and then your model lesson that I just opened up. So this is basically a map to show you exactly where all of those teacher development, the professional development list, and the videos lie. There's also a map for your direct to student content. When we open that up, it shows you all of the different assets you have available. So if I'm going to be teaching introducing graphic organizers, I have a skill power, I have an animated lesson, I also have another skill power for my pillar. And here are the interactive slides that I shared with you. That's in the recognizing genre lesson. And there's several more interactive slides in some of the lessons. And then we come to our virtual field trip. So we looked at the Bears virtual field trip. We heard a little bit of that narrated text. And all of these are outlined for you so that you can easily, at a glance, go and look at those assets and make your determinations in terms of planning. Your table of contents is also very helpful for an at-a-glance look as to the kinds of components you have in your lesson plan. So all of the lesson plan key components are outlined right here. Again, here's the introducing graphic organizers. You have a teacher background, a skill power, and an animated video. So you're going to want to go and preview some of those assets. Here's where your interactive slides are located, and here's that virtual field trip. Now notice there are no key components in this particular lesson, lesson number 4. And that really means that the lesson itself, when you go into it, you'll see that it may just be a lesson that's only going to take you about 15 or 20 minutes within your classroom. Now that's not always true about lessons where there are no key components, but it is sort of an indicator. And again, what do I need to do to make that determination? Go to the lesson plan, read through it, understand the procedures, and then get prepared for my lesson. So that's your table of contents there. Now, there's a lot to this book, and there's a couple of more places that I want you to see. Let's look at the pacing schedule. So we know that teachers have to teach so often. You have to teach informational, opinion, narrative writing. And so we've provided a weekly pacing schedule for you. This is where we've made our recommended pacing for you. We start with the literacy launch. That's your starting place for instruction. And we provide you with around 4 or 5 weeks for your literacy launch. And we basically outline every lesson that you should do on a week-by-week basis. Now, don't panic if you don't get through every single lesson on a week-by-week basis. If you have to extend the literacy launch over 5 weeks, that's fine. You've got the time to do that. And then once you've completed your literacy launch, you can move into either informational or narrative writing. In this PDF, informational writing comes next, and we've given you about 14 weeks in order to do your informational unit. Once again, we've provided you with a week-by-week look at our recommended pacing. In some lessons, we've given you some choices, choose one or the other. And that's usually because the objective of those lessons are very similar and you may want to do one over the other. Or in this instance, it says choose 2 of these. Once again, the objectives of those lessons are very similar. And we continue to scroll down. So not only do we give you the week-by-week plan for each lesson, but we also build in process writing for you over time. I'm going to continue to scroll through the informational section, and then we're going to land onto the narrative. Now, remember, once you've completed your literacy launch, you can go to informational or narrative, your choice. And here's the narrative, and it's laid out similarly. The other tool that we provided you is a set of slides, either Google or PowerPoint slides. So I'm just going to make a copy here of this pacing tool because I want to show you how you can customize this guide for your learners. So what we've done is we've put all of the lesson plans into this customized tool. And there are some directions for you. And then you can see what we've done is we've outlined every single lesson in that particular section. And we've given you the ability to manipulate that lesson. So for instance, in the first lesson, it's introducing the graphic organizers. And I'm going to introduce both the diamond and the pillar. But you know, in my classroom, it might take me a little bit of time to do that. I may want to introduce the diamond today, and maybe tomorrow, I'm going to introduce the pillar. So I can put those little notes right in here. Notice I can manipulate it in any way that I want for my classroom. And then you can see some are colored green and some of the blocks are colored sort of a beigey color. The green ones are the ones that are recommended as absolutely must do's. And then the beige colored ones, those are the ones where you want to make an informed decision. Go to the lesson plan and decide, do my students need that particular lesson? Do they need the review? Do they need to have that reinforced? So that pacing tool is going to be extremely important. We've also provided you with baseline and checkpoint prompts. We highly recommend you start the year off with a baseline prompt and give students about 45 to 60 minutes in which to complete their writing assignment. And there are 3 to choose from, your choice. The checkpoint prompts are identical to the baseline. They're the same ones, but then you can decide how to use those. I typically like to use a checkpoint prompt at the end of teaching a unit. And here's what's going on. You're actually going to show growth over time. So we start with the baseline prior to instruction, and then we do the checkpoint after instruction, after the skill development. And then there's some rubrics that you'll be using to score those pieces. So we have 2 different kinds of rubrics. There is a holistic rubric and there is a set of analytic rubrics that are skill by skill. I'm going to just slide down to the holistic rubric. This is the one that I will use when I'm scoring a whole piece. So when I do a baseline or a checkpoint prompt, I want to use my holistic rubric. And this is basically going to give you a 1 score point. And what I love about it is it's organized by category. So you can see each one of these categories. These are specific skills that you'll be teaching over the course of the unit. And I can come up with 1 score. Later on, when I do my checkpoint prompt, I'm going to notice that my students are growing in certain areas, and I'll be able to give them a higher score. So we're going to show that growth over time. As you're teaching skill by skill, however, some of you will definitely want to assess each skill. So we've given you these skill by skill rubrics, and you can see they're also on a 4-point scale. And what we've done is we've given you some of the examples of what a 2 might look like, what a 3 might look like. And that's great. So when you're looking at a student piece of writing, you're trying to decide, is it a 3, is it a 4, what is it? These examples will allow you to make that informed decision. You can compare your student piece to the exemplar that we've provided for you. So those are all of our rubrics. You also have constructed response and extended response rubrics as well. So as you can see, your planning guide is the place to start. You want to get prepared for your instruction. Once you understand how to pace yourself through each of the sections, through our pacing tools, both the PDF and the set of slides, you can then go lesson by lesson and make determinations as to how you're going to teach this. Here is the final piece I want to show you. When I went into several of the lessons, you saw there were a lot of student pages, and it's a little hard to go lesson by lesson to pull those pages and download them and print them. So what we did is we provided you with all of the student pages in one easy to download and print file. Each section is represented. So here are your student reference pages for your full year, both informational and narrative. And then here's the literacy launch student pages. Click on it, download, and print the entire file. And each one of the sections is laid out exactly the way you see here. So hopefully this hub tour has given you a good sense of what you have available to you. And if you ever need some support, make sure you contact us at www.empoweringwriters.com.